Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
Well, it's a new day here at WWNN. We are no longer on WSBR, and we are very happy here because our hours have changed. Now our show is 6 to 9. But I have the old familiar, well, he's young, but an old familiar voice, Joseph KARP. You've heard him for 20-some-odd years, and I'm so glad that he's just here to tell everybody all the important news about law. He's our certified elder law attorney. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning, Anita, and welcome to WWNN. Now I have to change my website, my e-newsletter, and give everybody the new call letters, the new stations, and the new time. That's a good thing. What are you going to do with that extra hour's sleep?
Oh, yeah, right. Well, you know, it's funny. You have to get up anyway, and this way I'll have more time to be able to get my act together in the morning. So, Joseph KARP, did you have a nice Thanksgiving?
Yes, I did. I did indeed. And you?
Absolutely. And you're looking forward to now having happy holidays.
Yeah, and we're going on an unusual trip next week.
Yes? What?
Yes. Well, some of your listeners always wonder, what the hell good is the Internet, right? It's more of a liability. Well, my wife does family genealogy on the Internet, and she uses a site, and this is just informational, called Geni, where you put down your information, and so that you can keep track of that, and you can give certain people access to it. But if you put the name of somebody on your genealogy chart and it appears on somebody else's chart on Geni, it'll let you know who that person is that put it down. You can't see their site, but you can contact them. Well, in about 1919, her paternal grandfather came to this country from Poland. And then his sister, a couple of years later, tried to get in, and you will be shocked to know that this country has had immigration issues in the past. Right. And she couldn't get in. Mm-hmm. So she went to Argentina. So my wife did in 1924-ish. So my wife listed her grandfather's sister's name. Somebody else popped up with it, and we are going to visit cousin Juan Miguel and 19 other relatives in Argentina next week.
No way! Oh, my goodness. This is so exciting.
These are people whom she's had no contact with, didn't even know. She had known that her grandfather's sister went to Argentina, but that was the end of it, right? So she found them, started communicating, and there's going to be a family reunion. A couple of her relatives from the United States are going down, and we're going down, and we're going to go to Buenos Aires and see relatives. Isn't that interesting?
I'm so excited about this. You're going to take your sons?
No, it's just going to be us. They're busy and preoccupied, and John's working in the office, so I can. Right. There's 4 other lawyers besides myself, but no, this is just Debbie who's wanting to find out. Now, they may go at a later date if they find it intriguing or interesting, but she'll get some family history from an entire other perspective.
Well, that's just wonderful, Joe. Good news. And, you know, it's funny. Once you do that, you'll be able to talk to a lot of your clients about maybe they're doing that.
I just talked to your listeners. It was GENI is the website. And because people can see stuff, because, you know, the Internet is not too public, Debbie doesn't put a lot of personal data down, so you wouldn't know much about most of the people. We don't give stuff that if somebody hit the Internet, they're going to get Social Security numbers, dates of birth, and stuff like that, but just it's a family tree. So it's interesting. And she also, in the process, discovered from her maternal grandfather's, from her father's maternal side, she found a relative of the sibling of her sister. So, and And these are two sides of the family in Argentina that of her family, where one side doesn't even know the other.
This is it's just unbelievable. I am so happy because I know that she's really into a lot of this. And now, because usually you and she went to Africa and went to a lot of other places to see the animals. Now you're going to see the relatives.
Right. Yeah, and I've done a couple of jokes about how some of her relatives sort of looked perhaps that Darwin was right. So so we're going, and that's pretty exciting. So we're gonna be gone for about a week, and then we're gonna be home during the holiday season, and that's good too.
Well, so reserve a time for me after you get back so I can hear all about this, because this is, unless you want to talk about it on the radio, maybe you will. Before we go too far, though, I did want to tell you something, because, you're always alerting your clients. But I was away on a press trip, and I got a call from our administrator, Dan, and said that it's an emergency. You have to do something about your electric. They're going to shut your electric off because you didn't pay your bill. What? And it panicked me, but I know that my electric's paid automatically. And I just knew there was a problem, but I still was worried. And sure enough, it turned out to be a fraud. Now, I didn't take that call. It was our receptionist. So I don't know if they gave them a phone number to call, because what would be the point? Telling them that you have to make a payment, right? But I want everyone to know that
your charge card or checking account.
Right.
And,
so FP&L, don't worry about them, because that's the one bill that is paid automatically. I never worry about it. Isn't that something?
Absolutely. And by the way, the other thing people are getting is phone calls from Social Security. That's also phony. They don't call you up.
Oh, my
Here's
goodness.
the answer. If anybody calls you up and wants to know anything about you, then they don't know who you are and they are full of it. Hang up.
Yes.
The other thing you can do, but it's really almost a waste of time, for those of you with iPhones, and I guess it's also on Androids, when you get off the phone, there's a little I marker on you go to recent calls, hit that phone number, and there's a place to hit an I, and then you write block caller. Now, since they're doing robocalls, it may be a waste, but it's a shot. Yeah, but the answer is don't give that information over the phone. Don't give that information over the phone.
Well,
and don't trust. In the old days, you could verify it. You could say, well, give me your phone number and I'll call you back.
Yeah, right.
It doesn't even work. And if you call back that number that they gave you, they'll answer, FPL, how may I direct your call? So don't believe anything.
Right.
And in fact, now they have a way of capturing phone numbers that they can grab your phone number and end up call forwarding it to their phone. So just beware. Technology is a blessing and a curse. I told about the blessing, but the curse is real. There are unscrupulous people, and these people are not as easily caught as the old days. Why? Because it's usually not some fat guy on a couch. It's usually some Russian or Nigerian that you're never going to be able to access at all.
Well, I'm glad that we talked about that, but I want you to go to your terrific article that's coming up now. It's just out in our December issue, called Congratulations on Getting Your Estate Plan Done. Now let's double-check the details. That was a very good article.
Yeah, I thought that would remind people, when they walk out of the office and they've done their documents and they feel a sense of accomplishment and they say, I'm so glad this is over. I've been meaning to do this, meaning to update it. And they walk out and they don't do some of the things that have to be done afterwards. And I'm not going to address funding a trust and retitling your assets to your trust because they're told that. You walk out with your health care surrogate, which says who's in charge of your affairs for your medical decisions, who can get your privileged medical information. Well, we tell our clients, and I'm telling our listeners this morning, One, get copies of it into the hands of the people you've named. That's number one. Now, we give our clients now, because technology has improved, flash drives of their documents so they can download them, email them. Because here's the reality, your children don't want paper, okay? Can you picture your son carrying your healthcare surrogate in his car, his wallet, all over the place? Hell no. He needs more paper like he needs 3 more kids all at once in infancy all over again.
Right.
Okay, 3 is enough, and they're grown enough that he ain't going through that again. Well, he doesn't want more paper. That's just more garbage. So if you email it to him, he can then preserve it wherever he preserves documents so that he can access it not only from his computer but from his cell phone. So if he's at work, he's on vacation, he's in Europe, he gets a call, you're sick, he can then email that to the hospital, the doctor, and say, hey, I have the right to make decisions, I have the right to get information, contact me, here's proof of it, because they always want proof. So that's number one. Let other people know if you have, besides the person you name as the agent and besides the people you name as the backups, let the people know who don't have rights who's in charge. Suppose you've named Child A, Child B, Child C. You didn't name your sister, you didn't name your niece, you didn't name these people. You say, look, my son, my brother, these are the people in charge of my health care. So if something happens to me and you hear about it, call my son, let him know. He's the one in charge. First of all, that eliminates the bosses from taking over. He's the boss because that's who you named. So they don't start to get involved and try. And sometimes medical facilities will allow people to do things that they're not authorized to do, so you want that done. Next, so make sure they know that they can access it. Next, very important thing for medical. What do we know about most of the people in this country over the age of 60? They take meds. They take pills. They take lots of stuff. And it's an ever-changing list. Make sure whoever is your agent has a list of every medication you take, the frequency and the dosage. And you should keep that list with you. And as it changes, because you know it changes, doesn't it? They change the dosage, they change this, they change that. Get that list to your agent, however it is that you get it to him, whether you email it to him, mail it to him, hand it to him. Because what is the first question they ask in the emergency room?
Right.
Besides, who is this and do they have insurance?
Right.
Oh, that's mean. That's mean. How are they going to pay for it? And I'm going to talk about the emergency room in a minute, though. So they want to know what medication is this person taking, because they want to make sure, A, that it's not an effect of medication they may have overdosed on, underdosed on, or mixed with other stuff. And they certainly don't want to give you any medication that's counterindicated. So you want to get them that information. So the people will have that, and they have access to it. Next, the other thing people should know is what happens when a loved one goes into a hospital or goes into rehab. There's an intuitive intent. They're going in on a gurney, and it's husband is going in on a gurney, and they turn to the wife, or they turn to the son, or they turn to the daughter and say, will you sign him in, right?
Right.
And you, what's your instincts? Of course. That's my husband, that's my father, that's my mother, that's my sister. I will sign. That is my 22-year-old child. That is my 40-year-old. I will sign him in. You should never sign the way you think you should sign. You don't sign Debbie KARP if I'm being admitted to the hospital. you sign Joseph KARP by Debbie, his power of attorney or his agent. Assuming there's a power of attorney, and let me tell you why. When you sign in, if Debbie signs me in as Debbie KARP, guess what she has just done? She has incurred financial liability for my hospital stay, for my emergency room stay, for my nursing home stay, whatever it is, for my rehabilitation stay. And what if there's a problem with the insurance coverage? Okay, they put somebody in rehab after 1 day of hospitalization or 4 days of observation. By the way, observation does not count as time in the hospital for your 3 days required for Medicare to go to rehab. So you say, I'll sign him in, or my son Ben or John signs me in. What happens then? If I have no coverage and if I have inadequate resources to pay my bill, they can go after whoever signed me in because they didn't sign me in as the agent under my power of attorney. They signed me in personally. They signed me in with their name, and they have the personal liability for my bill. But if they had signed Joseph KARP by Debbie KARP, by Ben KARP, by John KARP, agent under a POA or power of attorney or agent, then as long as they in fact have that authority and the document does exist, they incur no personal liability. And now I'm going to give you the biggest mistaken belief as your listeners are listening to me. They say, well, if it's my husband, I'm responsible for the bill anyway, right? Wrong. Under Florida law, you have no duty to pay for your spouse's medical necessities unless you incur that liability. So if Debbie signs me in as my power of attorney and she's got all the money and I've got nothing, they can't go after her even though she is my wife. They cannot go after her even though she is my wife. But if she signs me in as Debbie KARP because she's my wife and she thinks that's her duty, she has just incurred personal financial liability.
But, Joe, a lot of people are going to be intimidated and do it because they're afraid not to.
No, just sign it. I don't care. They've got to take the person into the hospital, so just do it. And sometimes people say, well, we don't have much money. Now, obviously, we don't have so much money, but suppose there's an insurance policy you're going to inherit when your spouse dies. You just don't want to have that liability. And I don't care. They can't force you to sign him in or her in at all. But the signing somebody in, you want to do, but you don't want to incur that liability. And I tell people that all the time. The power of attorney gives you the protection of no personal liability when you're signing on somebody's behalf. And even if it says responsible party, and they'll say, well, that just means you're responsible for paying with his money. Do you know how you see it occasionally on a TV show or a movie that cops are allowed to lie to criminal suspects to get them to do stuff?
Yes.
Okay. Medical institutions can lie to people about what their liabilities are when they're saying, oh, no, that just means you're responsible for getting him to pay. No. They can tell you fibs. And we're not even getting past the point where they may deny that they told you that. So, suppose they say, yeah, that's what we told him, but we're not his or her lawyer. We're telling you what we understand, but they signed it in person. So just do it. So these are some basics. So when you've done your documents, and for those of you who are listening now, who obviously many of you have done these documents in the past, Many of you are going to see your family members in the foreseeable holiday future. Get them the copies. And if you have access to a scanner, if you don't have them scanned into your system, get them scanned and have it emailed. If you have an 11-year-old grandchild, they can do it all for you in a heartbeat. Or if your daughter comes to visit during the New Year's and Christmas and the Hanukkah holidays, give her a copy and tell her to get it scanned into her computer and to email it to your son and your granddaughter, or whoever's supposed to get the stuff. It's a very important thing because doing half the job doesn't get the job done.
Okay, Joe, and I'm going to stop you because I've got to tell everybody who you are, give them some phone numbers, and if you have January seminars, you can let me know.
I do.
Okay, well,
I do.
All right. I'm talking now with Joseph S. KARP. He's a Florida Bar Certified Elder Law Attorney. If you want to go to their website, you'll find so many things there. It's karplaw.com. That's KARPLAW.com. And their phone number, if you want to call the office, though, their phone number is, and I'm going to tell you this right now, it is 800-893-9911. And now get your pencils out. Remember, this is Pencil Talk Radio. 800-893-9911. So, all right, Joe, and the biggest thing that people have learned and know him so well for are his seminars. And they're fabulous, and they're free. Believe it or not, it's almost up to 4 hours sometimes, and they're free. So you'll want to hear this. Get your pencils out. All right, what are they, Joe?
Fortunately, they're not 4 hours, and we've cut it down.
Okay.
But anyway, January 21, that's a Tuesday, January 21,
okay,
in Port St. Lucie, at the Port St. Lucie Holiday Inn, from 1:30 to 4 o'clock. We're trying to make them shorter and faster, but there we'll talk about all of the estate planning laws, all of the Medicaid laws, all of the veterans' benefits for non-service-connected disability for wartime veterans and their widows. And that's there January 21 in the Port St. Lucie Holiday Inn. January 22, that's a Wednesday, in Palm Beach Gardens at the Palm Beach Gardens Marriott on PGA, right off PGA and RCA Boulevards. And again, 1:30 to 4. We normally finish, I'm working at finishing earlier, but we do start on time. And then Thursday, January 23, at the Courtyard by Marriott in Boynton Beach, and that's between Gateway and Boynton Beach Boulevard on Congress Avenue. And again, it's 1:30 to 4. We have offices to meet our clients in every one of those cities. So we are in Palm Beach Gardens, we are in Port St. Lucie, and we are in Boynton Beach.
Now, excuse me, didn't you say last time, though, that you changed the Boynton Beach because they were under construction? Are you back to where you were?
No, we changed the Marriott.
Oh, the Marriott.
Last time.
But that's back.
By the way, they did some construction. They are now going to be open for us in January, and then they're doing more construction, so we will have not be there in February. We're working out the details of where we're going in February, but we do them. We've been doing them now for 25 years.
Right.
So we are there to stay. We are there to be there for our clients for the long run. One of the things that's very interesting I discovered when I first started doing these public workshops and stuff, I'd hear what other lawyers were telling people. And they'd say, oh, once you do a trust, you're done. You're not going to need the court system, quote, so you're not going to need a lawyer anymore. That's not true. Yeah, you're going to avoid the court system if you do everything right. But your daughter, your son, your sister, your spouse doesn't know what they have to do to handle things in many cases. And what I discovered is that I was right. The number of people who hire us because they know that their family wouldn't know what to do or where to be or how to handle it. So the number of people who come to us because they know we're there, they know we've had staying power, they know it's not just Joe KARP, and the day he can't do it, there's nobody for their family to turn to. There's nobody with the history with the client, nobody who knows their prior documents and their history and their assets and what's going on. So people really appreciate that. So people need help when somebody dies. That's just, they need to know what to do. How much help they need varies upon each case. But people need help, and that's why we're there, and that's why I established it as a law firm to continue on after me. If I could, I want to give one last tip.
Okay.
Okay? How to save money on income tax. Oh, I think I got their attention. Many of your clients or listeners are over 70 and a half. They have required minimum distributions from their IRA. They got to take the money out of their IRA, and many of them wait till December to do it because they want to let the IRA grow and then they take their required minimum distributions. Under the law, so suppose your required minimum distribution is $10,000, and you call up your broker and say, send me my check for the $10,000 this coming week. What will happen with that $10,000? You're going to have to pay income tax on that money, correct?
Right.
Okay. And today, with the standard deduction being for a married couple $24,000, most people are not itemizing their taxes anymore. They're taking the standard deduction. They don't have $24,000 worth of itemized deductions, right?
Okay.
So when they're writing their checks to their charities and making their charitable contribution, they're doing it because they want to do it, but they get no tax savings anymore. No tax savings because you're not itemizing. If you're over 70 and a half and you're taking required minimum distributions up to like $100,000, which is not what we're talking about with most people, you can request that your broker write the check out to your charity instead of to you. So if you're entitled to 10, and you may say, I do 3,000 to charities. Here are the charities. I want them each to get $200. I want X number of checks to equal the $3,000 written to the charities, and I want the other $7,000 given to me. Guess what? You don't pay income tax on that $3,000.
You know, Joe, I'm going to stop you because we're getting close to the time, but just what you've been doing is why you are so important, that people there's so much to know. It's almost impossible. But if they go to your seminars, they may learn at one seminar something that they didn't know at the last seminar. I really urge people to go to them. I have been to Joe KARP seminars, so many people over the many years that you said. I thought it's 20. How many years is it now?
25, 1994.
25 years that you've been doing this with us. Well, you're really great. And, of course, your practice is so large now. I remember when it was almost you were a sole practitioner, weren't you, when I first met you?
But I always knew I was building it that way. And, by the way, besides the seminars, when our clients come in for a free 3-year review or when we send them the e-newsletter and we keep them up to date, they hear this stuff all the time. It is the value of a relationship. We value them and they value us.
I know. And I'm sure that when you go places and you start to talk about something, they'll say, I've heard you. I've heard you on the radio, or I've read about you. They see your face. You are famous, you know, as an elder law attorney. You know that, don't you?
I have limited ego. I know that people know of me. I do. I recognize that.
Big responsibility.
That thing doesn't go to my. When I'm off the phone with you, I'm taking out the garbage and recycling. So that thing has a perspective that is totally in check.
That's
I
right.
have no ego related to it. I have pride in relation to the fact that I can help people and that I love and enjoy what I'm doing.
Well, I hope.
And the people who work with me have the same feelings towards our clients and the people we help.
Okay, so let me just go over this one more time because I want everyone to be sure that they do get in touch with you. Go to his website, which is KARPLaw, KARPLAW.com, or call his number, 1-800-893-9911, and just do what you're doing. Thanks, Joe. Talk to you again.
Thank you, and the
All right.
seminar dates are there.
All right.
Happy New Year to everybody.
Yes.
Bye-bye.